Hello, hello everybody. Welcome to your weekly messages for August 7th to the 13th of 2018. It's good to see all of you here. Thank you for hopping on. If you are watching on Facebook, hello, hello. And if you're watching the replay on YouTube, hello as well. Don't forget, I do list all of the decks out in the description box if you are wondering what they are, if you're watching on YouTube. And then we do have the new moon eclipse, the partial solar eclipse in Leo coming up this week. So I know that the energies are kind of building for that. Hello everybody who's hopping on. I'm not going to be doing the sign specific reading today. I'm going to try to get that one done in the morning. I don't know what time yet. It depends. I need to check my schedule to make sure I don't have any appointments in the morning with people. So yeah, I'll keep you guys posted. I'll give an update on Facebook if and when I figure out when I'm going to be doing the sign by sign reading for the eclipse. Okay, and I'm just gonna do kind of a free flow reading today. Whatever needs to come up is gonna come up. I'll do plenty of 3-card picks. I have lots of decks today. So I'm gonna start with an empowering question. This is just something to consider this week. All right, and then tune into your body. Make sure you're staying grounded. Feel into your sit bones. Take a few deep belly breaths. Just really stay present. Hello to everybody who's hopping on. All right, and then whichever one feels right for you, or however many feel right for you. First thing we have, what gives me great joy? This is one of those things that maybe it's something that you've lost touch with, or it's something you haven't been considering, or it's something that just really isn't coming up for you right now. No matter the case, you can always find it again. It starts with the question though, so don't forget that. And then second card, we have how have I become me? What am I like? This is looking at both how much growth you've had happen, how much change you've endured, as well as your wounds. Both sides of the coin with that question. You're not one-dimensional. You are not your pain. You are not your wounds. You are not your flaws. You're a multi-dimensional person, but those are also part of you. So you're an entire person. Okay, so it's really just looking at the ins and outs, what you're working towards as a person, who you're evolving into, as well as who are you right now, and then what parts of you need a little light shed on them. And then lastly, we have what kind of good and beautiful things am I experiencing in this moment? The purpose of this card is to kind of show you good things exist right now. It's not something that happens when you get X, or when you get that job, or when you get that relationship, or when you get that material thing, or when you get into a better home. While all of these things can make our lives easier, that doesn't mean that your life is completely void of good and beautiful things just because they haven't come into your life yet. Okay, so just make sure you're reminding yourself and your body of the distinction between those two things. Okay, let's do another one, shall we? Alrighty, and don't forget, some people like picking them after I flip them over. Some people like picking beforehand. It's totally up to you. These readings are for you. There's not a right or wrong way to do it. It doesn't matter if one card resonates more than the other. Don't overthink this, okay? So first thing we have coming up here is the Six of Candles, victories, celebration, making things happen, getting what you want. Now, my intuitive hit is that however this shows up, I want to be clear that this could also show up as something not happening. What do I mean by that? It's that when something leaves your life or when something doesn't happen, it's actually a blessing. So you're being spared. This is one way you can also look at rejection. So it's kind of like maybe you don't get that job and it's kind of like, thank God you didn't, because it could have been a toxic environment. Maybe there were some really sleazy coworkers that would have been there. So everything is a victory, depending on how you're framing it. So your lens matters in this moment. A lot of it has to do with what are you looking at? It doesn't mean that there aren't crappy things that happen, but so much of it is determined by, are you looking at this as something that is just not going your way, or something that is leaving some space open for something better, which is also a win. So you just want to remind yourself of that. Card number 2, Seven of Candles. I think that you really get to shine. This is having a lot of Leo energy come up in this card, like really rising above and being vibrant, letting yourself feel whole, letting yourself feel like your big self, and just seeing what sticks. Remember, there's a lot of your energy is being matched by what comes into your life, which is part of why there's kind of that when it rains, it pours phenomenon. So just keep that in mind, that if you're trying to keep it upbeat, keep energies high, that's probably going to serve you better than taking a magnifying glass to a tiny hiccup or any gray cloud that floats by. Okay, and then card number 3, we have the Eight of Tomes. This is work, efforting, making progress on a project or something you're working on, both personal, professionally, or physically. Whatever you're working towards, whatever you're working at is kind of it's in progress. So let yourself have a little bit of space with that, just to give yourself a break. Okay, so this is good. It's like, okay, you're building to that thing. So just hang in there and keep your nose to the grindstone. I know that it's very easy to get sucked into my efforts don't have payoff, but if that's the mantra that you have, then, I mean, look out. Because it's kind of like, what do you expect if that's the story that's running? You know, there's so much more to life than circumstance. So keep working, keep at it. You're doing a good job. A lot of you, I'm sure, are much harder on yourselves than you probably need to be. It's kind of in our nature to be our own worst critic and have that voice running at all times. So give yourself credit where credit is due. And thank you for all of the warm notes and comments that I'm getting. Yes, I'm feeling recharged. I'm glad that I took a couple days. So thank you for all of that. Okay. Deep breath. Is there something you need to know about a situation? Is there something you want to know about the eclipse? I'll do the eclipse reading tomorrow, but just kind of tune in, see if there's a card here that's kind of calling you. Card number 1, bleed. So it's all about purging. Don't forget that purging is not a bad thing. It creates space. The way I like to see it is when you've outgrown the clothes in your closet, sometimes the universe just kind of gives you a little nudge, like, hey, you gotta purge first before you can fit any more room for anything new in there. Allow yourself to kind of feel into that. This is also eclipse energy times 10. See where that's happening in your chart, because it's going to give you a lot of information about where you're at, what's coming up, what exactly you are getting space in. Card number 2, we have listen. So pay attention to the messages that are coming up. Pay attention to yourself. Pay attention to the self-talk. Again, noticing your internal voice is just noticing it. It doesn't mean you have to believe everything that you tell yourself. And I want to reiterate, there's a difference between intuition and fear. Those are not the same things. And just because you have a fearful thought doesn't mean that it has to be believed, but acknowledgement will help. Okay, so just listen to it. See what it has to say. Maybe it's, some fearful advice, or maybe it's trying to protect you. Or maybe you are getting a few really intuitive hits. If this eclipse is happening in a really sensitive part of your chart, if it's happening in your 12th house, different things like that can have an impact. But just notice and pay attention. That's what listening is kind of calling your attention to. And card number 3, we have pleasure. So indulge a little bit. Give something back to yourself. Give yourself a little love, give yourself a little care, buy something nice for yourself. It's just about kind of giving yourself a treat in some way that's going to bring you pleasure. Like, it could be a break, it could be turning off your phone, it could be any number of things, but just focus on what do you need in this moment and try to meet that as best as you can. All right. Card number 1, 10 of Wands. This is having a lot of energy that's scattered. I'm getting that this is like your plate is really full. You have a bunch of stuff going on. This is overwhelmed to a T. So you kind of want to dial that back, rewind. It's just about perspective here, because if you zoom out, then you can see, oh, right, I don't have to tackle these 5 things right now. I can put them aside and deal with other things first. This is just signaling, hey, get your priorities straight. Not everything is urgent, even if it feels that way, because everything is piling up. So if you kind of shift your focus and look at, okay, this is what I want to have happen, it's going to make it easier for you to make decisions that are aligned with your priorities, not something that's just operating out of firefighting mode, if that makes sense. Card number 2, we have the Empress, divine femininity, foundation, really focusing on the home. Compassion is big here. As we are building to this eclipse, again, we're all kind of feeling it in our own way. Maybe you're feeling really good about yourself. Maybe you've been really emotional. Maybe you've been feeling really self-conscious or had a lot of ego stuff coming up. We have this Leo energy that's kind of, sitting underneath the surface, and it's all coming to a head. So the best way to deal with that ego stuff that you're going to be facing is by having compassion. Remember, you are not your ego. I mean, sure, sometimes we can kind of slip into that, but that's not the only thing that's going on. Again, it's one dimension. It's not you in your entirety. So I would just pay attention to, oh, that's coming up. There's that wounded part. Having compassion is the best course of action with that. Because it's hard for something to fester in an area of compassion. It's really, really hard because you're getting what you need, even if it's just subtly or emotionally or something that might not make sense. The point is, if you're just having the compassion, it kind of relieves all of that judgment through compassion. Like even when you screw up, even when you snap at somebody or make a bad decision or something that you judge yourself for, it's like, okay, well, I forgive myself and have compassion for who I was in that moment. And then it doesn't grow any further than that. So it takes practice, though. Okay, card number 3, we have the Emperor. These, like, I don't know, for some reason in this deck, these two love to come up together. So this is that yang masculinity. Pursuing is kind of what's coming up, and I don't think that this is happening this week per se. I think that this is more of what's building up, so you might be feeling the opposite right now, like, what? Why did she pull this card that's about masculinity and pursuit when I'm freaking exhausted? And the reason being is that you just need to get over this little hump, and then it's going to be full speed ahead for you. Make sure that you are just letting yourself feel what you're feeling, and remember that this is for your energy. It's not something that's just depleting or something that's working against you. It's just about kind of letting your body do its thing while you're building your energy. And another, let's see what else is coming up with Mythological Abstractions. Pick a card, ask a question, whatever feels good. Card number 1, 6 of Wands. This is the same as this card right here that I pulled. Again, it's that forward movement. It's that progression. So even if you can't see it, things are really building and moving forward. So I would say you have good things to look forward to. It just might be an emotional time. So kind of let yourself, again, have space. It's okay to be in that, as long as you kind of focus on, all right, this is where I'm going. This is what I'm doing to move forward. This is how I'm progressing. This is all of the things that I'm doing to make happen. So it's kind of like seeing yourself in a different light is how this is showing up, actually. And just really looking at your big vision is going to help give you that extra push. Card number 2, we have the 3 of Pentacles. Make the effort. It's kind of like the rewards, the benefits, the gifts out of the situation are not going to come from a place of inaction. They are coming from doing the work. They're coming from you taking the plunge, you making an effort, you taking the first step, you kind of putting yourself in a position to grow and to make headway. It's not something that you want to necessarily step away from unless you're okay with it not growing. So just remember, you have to be involved in order for you to produce the desired results. It's not something that's going to come from stagnation. So it's just take ownership and responsibility for what's happening, and that you do have control over not the outcome, but how much progress you make, and to have bigger, better opportunities and things come up. Card number 3, we have the 5 of Pentacles. There's an energy about this that's kind of like feeling sorry for yourself and just being kind of down in the dumps, like you have that Eeyore's cloud kind of following you around. I think that this is just a reflection. A lot of the time that can come up with introspection. Anytime you're looking at yourself or you're kind of being positioned to look at some parts of your shadow that maybe you've been avoiding or don't want to look at, or just kind of want to shove in a closet. So it's better to be present with it and just acknowledge it rather than like shame it, blame it, or trying to suffocate it. That's not that's not really a way that it's going to heal, right? Because if you're having a bad day, does it feel good when somebody invalidates you and tells you to just suck it up and it's not a big deal and it's something that, you know, is all your fault? So if that's a story that you're running, if that's something that you kind of have sitting in this, whatever this is for you, then it's kind of like, well, maybe there's a different way to speak to yourself about it. It's okay to have bad days. It's okay to feel doom and gloom sometimes. Like I keep saying, the ego does not want you to feel like a human being. It doesn't want you to be multidimensional. It wants you to be perfect all the time, exactly in the way that it wants you to be, even if that's through expressions like rage or fear or guilt. That's all projection. So it's about kind of identifying how you can kind of flip the script around that. Anyway, I'm going to pull a few of these. These are going to be for everybody. So just see what resonates with you here. This, and I apologize, this Mercury retrograde is making me extremely chatty. Like, I can't explain anything concisely. It's just making me, like, the longest way to explain things is how I've been explaining them. So I hear myself, don't worry. Okay, first thing coming up is the third eye. What are you envisioning for yourself? Remember that what you see matters. And if you're seeing like everything's going to fall apart, everything is doom and gloom, that's okay. It means that that part of yourself just needs attention. It's like, what's that about? Get curious with yourself. I would say there is no better way to deal with this eclipse and all this energy, no matter what cards you pulled today, than to be curious. This is not a time to like pressure yourself into wanting a certain outcome or to be something that you're not, or to exist differently than you already are. It's about just reflecting on whatever it is that you have currently. And then we also have elixir, so kind of putting together something that works for you, a strategy that you can implement, like an energetic first aid kit that works for you. Kind of, it just looks like you're piecing things together, and this is something that takes time. It's not coming overnight, so let yourself kind of breathe into the solutions and think about this entire process of looking at yourself and figuring out what's working for you as you putting together a little elixir, potion, a recipe for yourself that's going to support your healing, because you also have to be supportive in that as well. And then we also have transition. There we are with the eclipse. It is a transition. The way things are right now are not permanent. I want to make that really clear. At least they don't have to be. You can choose for them to be. That's definitely the truth. You know, it's like if you do not want to budge, that's okay too. Just don't complain. Like that, you can go at your speed, but I really want you to feel empowered about these transitions, that you do have a say. This is not something that is entirely out of your control. There are things that are out of your control, but there's also a great deal about how you adapt and evolve within this environment that you can actually construct for yourself, as we already see. You can be curious, you can be gentle throughout these transitions. So it all takes practice and it all takes awareness. And then we also have fear coming up. This is that, you know, dark side of the moon. It's like the expression and realization of the shadow is what an eclipse does. So all those parts of your ego that are tucked away, that are nestled and are super comfortable, it's kind of like, well, they're being exposed. So that's what all of this energy is bringing up. Fear isn't bad. Fear is giving you clues to an injury that needs healing. And then we also have intuitive and psychic prowess. Again, pay attention to the intuitive hits that you're getting. Do you notice how these are different cards? I'll say it again. Fear, intuition, two separate camps. If you find yourself kind of acting out in a way that's purely out of fear, remember that that is not you. That is not your intuition. That's fear. And it's okay. Again, it has a function. It doesn't mean you're never going to be scared. It just means that you don't have to fully buy into that when it comes up. Now I'm going to use the Sovereign Oracle deck. Remember, these have words and then 3 phrases that go along with it. So pay attention to what your gut is resonating with, because that's the message that is coming up for you to hear. First thing that you need to know about this week: process. Be curious about how you do it. Find a flow that works for you. Give the work time and space to unfold. Rushing will only delay things further in the end. This is basically a culmination of this entire reading. Again, I'm pushing the idea of being curious and finding something that works for you. That's the Elixir card. And not putting pressure on yourself, but remembering that you do have power in the way that you exist in the world. And I know that there's a lot of people who have resistance to that idea, and that's okay too. No judgment. I'm just going to continue to remind you guys that you do have that power. And then we also have desire. You are worthy of your desires. Be curious. There's that frickin' word again. And explore your soul's yearnings. Let yourself want what you want, even if you're afraid you won't or will get it. Again, the curiosity piece is your best friend this week. Just be curious. Wonder, why do you want what you want? Maybe there's another desire that you can fulfill for yourself immediately that's going to help with that process. It's kind of like, if you really, really, really want a relationship, then maybe start looking at just connection overall. Be curious about that as well. Are there other areas where you're getting, you know, things like physical touch, laughter, camaraderie, feelings of connection and collaboration? So just kind of zoom out a little bit, be curious about it, and see if there are other clues for you in that. And then we also have temper. Tune the instrument, manage your emotions diligently. Don't get derailed by mania, depression, or burnout. Pace yourself. Trust it will come to you with right timing. Trust that it's going to come in right timing. Give it time and space to unfold. Rushing will delay things further. You need to remember those two things because it's coming up twice. So that's like really wanting to drill it home. And then we also have visibility. Claim your bright light. Your perfect co-creators are seeking you out. Allow yourself to be seen. It is safe to be witnessed. That one kind of speaks for itself. And it also is kind of a testament to the desire card as well, which is just like letting yourself go there. Maybe being seen isn't on like a public format, or like in physical form, but just allowing you to see yourself and allowing God, divine source, higher power, whatever you like to work with, to see you and your desires as well. And then one more card out of here. Integrity. Show consistency in your values and behaviors. A fall is inevitable. Sometimes land softly. Seek your own integration. The piece about a fall being inevitable, it's kind of like with this entire space, you're not going to be perfect every single day, all the time, 24/7. You can act out of alignment and consistency as best as you can, but perfection is unrealistic. So it's definitely about you being a human being and letting that be good enough in this moment. Okay, and then I'm going to pull one animal spirit card for the road. Let's see what's coming up for this week for everybody. Butterfly, you're evolving. As we all know, this is all metamorphosis and how you are really kind of in that period of being in a cocoon and you are evolving. So I promise that things are getting better, things are getting brighter, you are expanding, growing, and cultivating the things that you, again, desire. But it's a process. It's kind of like what happens if you break open that cocoon prematurely. You wouldn't want that. So kind of let yourself have the space to grow without judgment, without trying to force yourself to go faster, because that's gonna, again, it's gonna delay things. So this is just a very cohesive reading. It's like, let yourself have the space. It doesn't have to be any more than what it is. It doesn't need to be overanalyzed. It doesn't need to be judged. It doesn't need to be explained or understood. You are where you are, and all you can do is really see it through a lens that is healing and works for you. All right, everybody, I will post on Facebook when I know what time I'm going live for the Leo eclipse reading tomorrow. Thank you, each and every one of you, so much. I absolutely appreciate all of you for being on here. And don't forget, if you want to work with me, you can go to onyxhealing.com and check out my services. And until next time, I will talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.